Thank you very much. Thank you very much. When I first met Hillary Rodham Clinton a few years ago, she was the First Lady of Arkansas, and she was in Washington working with the Children's Defense Fund. When we first talked, I was so impressed with her commitment to improving the quality of life for our children. We talked about the need to expand our nation's Head Start program, to enhance our children's nutrition program, and to provide schools with the tools to really help our children. And under President Clinton, we have achieved these goals. We have expanded Head Start, we have improved child nutrition, and we have passed the most comprehensive education bill in the history of this country, Goals 2000. We are making a real difference in the lives of our young people, our future. To build upon the spirit and leadership that this President and First Lady have shown our country, I have joined them in assuring that the next generation will have it better than this generation. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, it's a high honor and a personal privilege to introduce to you the First Lady of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. It is great to be back in Flint, and it is great to be back in Michigan again. And I want to thank your Congressman, Dale Kildee, because he has been a steadfast advocate for children, for students, for education, for workers, for Michigan. As he mentioned in his introduction, I went to see him before my husband was president, and he and I talked for a long time about what together we could do to make sure that the people who built America, the workers who made Michigan the most productive state in the Union, would have the chance to have the kind of future they deserve to have. And he has fought for that year in and year out, often against great odds. So tomorrow, anybody who's ever gone to school or had a child who went to school, anybody who's ever been in a trading program, anybody who's ever been an apprentice, get your friends and your family members to go vote for Dale Kildee for Congress. You know, this election could not be clearer. The choice that is posed is a very stark one. We are being asked whether we will go forward trying to solve our problems, honestly talking about them, bringing people together, or whether we will go back to the economic policies of trickle-down economics, back to the past. Now, if there is one state in this country who suffered because of the wrong-handed policies that exported our jobs, put blinders on our economic future during the 1980s, it was this state. And so tomorrow you can send a very clear message. We are not going back. Michigan is going forward with the leadership of Bob Carr for the United States Senate. You know, Bob Carr's opponent is very clear where he stands. He stands with the richest 1% of the people who live in Michigan. Well, I'm proud to stand with someone who wants to represent all the rest of us, the 99% who get up every day, who go to work, who go back to school, who pay the taxes, who make this state run and make it what it is today. Bob Carr has always been a fighter for the people of Michigan, and that means all the people. He has stood up for workers, he has stood up for women, he has stood up for children, because he knows the way you build a great state is not by dividing people, not by pointing fingers at people, not by placing blame, but by building with every person included so every person can have a chance to live up to his or her God-given potential. That's what made America great. That's what made Michigan great. That's what will make Bob Carr a great United States Senator. If you think about what makes for a successful life, for a successful job, for a successful business, for a successful school, it's people who get up every day and try to do their best. It's people who work hard. It's people who get the education and training that they need. It's people who take care of their families. Those are the kinds of values that Bob Carr has fought for. And it is those values that Michigan needs now more than ever. Because there are those among us supporting Bob's opponent who think that they can pull the wool over our eyes again, who think that they can say there are easy answers. They can say there are easy ways of solving our problems. Bob Carr knows that if you work together with people, we can make a better future. And that is why Michigan needs a senator who is dedicated to representing the 99% of the people in Michigan, who is dedicated to making a difference in Washington, and who will care more about what the people of Michigan think than what the Republican leadership of the Senate think. And we need a senator in Washington representing this state who speaks out and stands up for the people of Michigan, and you have a choice tomorrow. If you will work hard, get everybody out to vote, then you will be represented by a strong voice for Michigan and its future, and I give you that person, Bob Carr, the next senator.
You stepped on my speech literally and figuratively. That's great. That's great. I got it. That's great. Oh, we got an inside joke up here, and I can't explain it to you. I want to thank the First Lady for those kind remarks. I want to introduce, number one, I am so glad, you know, early on, the President of the United States came to Michigan to help us fight for middle-income families. Later in this campaign, the First Lady came to help us fight for middle-income families. And today, I'm just really pleased that the first family is here to help us fight for middle-income families. And speaking of families, I'd like to have you meet my family. My wife, Kate Carr, and our two children, Chris and Jenny. And thank all of you for being here to help welcome our first family. We want to give them as warm a welcome in Michigan anytime we can get them to come back. And we welcome their support. You know, this is a campaign that's on its way to victory on Election Day. But it's not over yet. It's not over yet, and it's not going to be until every one of you and all of your friends and all of your neighbors make sure that everyone votes tomorrow. Everyone votes tomorrow. This campaign isn't over until we've left this hall and we've gone to every block, every neighborhood, and every street in Michigan to tell them the stories. And then we will win. The hardworking men and women of Michigan want a senator who's going to be on their side, like Carl Levin and Don Regal. And that's what kind of senator I'm going to be. Spencer Abraham can fight for that 1%. We're going to fight for everyone else. I'm going to keep fighting to make it easier for middle-class families to get college loans because I'm on your side. I'm going to keep fighting to make sure that kids who aren't going to college get job training, job apprenticeship programs, good jobs, because I'm on their side. I'm going to fight to get criminals off the streets and cops on the streets because we're on your side. And first and foremost, I'm going to keep fighting for the automobile industry of this state, for the manufacturing engine that keeps our economy alive, for our workers, for our design teams, for the people who make us competitive. I've fought for Michigan. I've fought for Michigan's hardworking families all my life. And I'm proud to say that we voted to cut taxes for 392,000 Michigan families, 41,000 businesses. We've cut spending $255 billion, the deepest cuts ever, and we've cut the deficit in half. While they've talked, we've acted. Our economy is growing, creating jobs and opportunities, 135,000 jobs here in Michigan, good, high-paying private sector jobs. Just a few days ago, we hit the 5 millionth newly created job in the last 21 months, to the credit of our president. Unemployment is the lowest it's been in 4 years in Michigan. 5.1%, lower than the national average. We haven't been treated to that kind of policy output in our nation's history. We've got to keep moving forward. But Spencer Abraham wants to keep us moving backward. He can fight for the richest 1%, but we're going to keep fighting for everyone else. Spencer Abraham would cut college loans for middle-class families because the wealthiest 1% don't need it. Spencer Abraham would cut Medicare and Social Security because the wealthiest 1% don't need it. He'd cut unemployment benefits and job training programs because the wealthiest 1% simply don't need it. So what do we say to Spencer Abraham? We don't need him. Mr. Abraham, we're going to send you a message, and we're going to send the entire message to the entire country. Mr. President, we're going to elect a United States Senator tomorrow. We're going to help keep this state and this country moving forward. Mr. President, you're doing what you said you would do. You're expanding our economy. You're creating jobs. You're cutting the deficit. There are more people working, more middle-class students getting college loans, more young kids getting school-to-work programs. Right 5 miles from here, the Genesee Area Skills Center was one of the first loan grants in the country under the Department of Labor to get a school-to-work program. They built the table you signed that bill on, Mr. President, and they're going to build the future for this country. And now, my fellow citizens of Michigan, it's my privilege and high honor to present to you Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm glad to be back in Flint. Glad to be back in Michigan. Glad to be here for Bob Carr. Ladies and gentlemen, Hillary and I are delighted to be here today with all of you. I want to begin by thanking the nominees who are here behind me, the wonderful members of the labor movement, the educators who are here, and others who are doing their best to see that Michigan makes a good decision for the future tomorrow. I also want to say a special word of thanks out of my own history to the Davison High School band over here for playing for us. Thank you very much. You know, the chancellor at this distinguished institution, Dr. Charlie Nelms, has, we got another band up here? What? Northern High School up here. Give them a hand here. Folks, the chancellor of this fine institution, Dr. Charlie Nelms, grew up in my home state, and he just got back from his college reunion. I won't tell you which one. He was one of 11 children. And I say this not to embarrass him, but to tell you that right before we came out here, he said, I want you to know something, Mr. President. If it hadn't been for people believing in me, giving me a chance, and providing programs like these college loans that get so many students into this institution, I wouldn't be here today. I want to stick with the people who believe in education, who believe in ordinary citizens, who believe in the future of this country. I want to thank Mayor Woodrow Stanley for being my friend and my supporter and your great leader. They used to call me the comeback kid. You ought to call Flint the comeback city under Woodrow Stanley. And the thing I like about Woodrow Stanley, I want to say more about this in a minute because it goes to your choice in this election, is that he is a builder, not a blamer. I want to thank your senators, Senator Carl Levin and Senator Don Regal. We wish you well in your retirement, and we thank you for representing Flint, Michigan, and the United States. I want to welcome the Democratic nominees for Governor and Lieutenant Governor, Howard Wolpe and Debbie Stabenow, and ask you to help them tomorrow and support them. You know, I just have to say this. The unemployment figures came out last week, and we had a 4-year low in unemployment. And the governor here always says, well, the Michigan economy is getting better. That's true, but did you ever notice that it didn't get very much better when the Republicans had the White House and the economic policy?
even though I think an enormous amount of credit goes to the automobile industry for their incredible efforts at partnership, labor, and management, bringing us back to #1 in automobiles in the entire world. The rest of the states are doing pretty well, too. We're going up or down together. That is my message. I want you to help these people, and especially I want you to help Bob Carr, because if nothing else, you know, if you look at this fine institution of higher education, if you look at this city, if you look at this state, if you think of our country, we are going up or down together. And you only have one choice, who is clearly 100% on your side. Bob Carr is 100% on your side. I also want to echo what Hillary said about Congressman Dale Kildee. I want to say a special word of thanks to him for his leadership in the most productive congressional session for education in 30 years. We expanded Head Start. We changed the federal law on aid to our public schools so that we will emphasize grassroots reform and get rid of this ridiculous assumption that just because kids are poor and from disadvantaged backgrounds, they can't learn. From now on, the same expectations, the same opportunity, the same achievement for children without regard to their background. And you heard him talking about the School to Work Opportunity Act I signed. That's a bill for young people who don't go on to college but don't want to be in dead-end jobs, who want good training and are willing to engage in a lifetime of learning. And I did sign that bill on a desk built by the students at the Manufacturing Technology Project right here in Flint, Michigan, who will benefit from that sort of effort. I also want to thank Congressman Jim Barsha and our candidate Bob Mitchell for being here. Send them back to Washington so we'll have partners for progress. You know, folks, this has really turned out to be an amazing election in ways that are both wonderful and troubling. The American people know that there are still things that need fixing in Washington, and they know there are things that need fixing back here at home. They know that in spite of the fact that we've got an enormous amount of job growth, over 5 million jobs in the last 21 months, in spite of the fact that we've got more high-wage jobs coming back into America this year than in the previous 5 years combined, in spite of the fact that the biggest problem in the auto industry is not no time, it's now overtime, a high-class problem. They know that there are still a lot of people who are worried about losing their jobs, a lot of people who are afraid they'll never get a raise, a lot of people who are worried about losing their health insurance, as 1 million people in working families did last year, a lot of people who still want work in some of our cities and isolated rural areas who don't have jobs. This country has problems. They know that we've still got too much crime and violence and too much disintegration of our families and our communities that make people feel personally insecure or at least violate their sense of values. That's all true. Now the question is, what are we going to do about it? And what these guys say is, our opponents, they say be mad about it, be frustrated about it, be cynical about it, and put us in because we are going to prey on your fears, your frustrations, and your cynicism. That's their argument. Their argument is, look, nothing good has happened, and if you find something good that happened, it did not happen because the president was there. It did not happen because he had partners in the Congress. It happened in spite of that. It was irrelevant to that. That's their argument. You listen to them. Well, you know what, folks? Where I come from, people say if you find a turtle on the fence post, it did not get there by accident. And so I say to you, don't let a frustrated electorate wind up voting for what you're against and against what you're for. That's what they want. Look what they say they're for. They say they are for a new plan. It doesn't matter. Ignore the jobs, the growth, the help for ordinary working Americans, the fact that the world is growing more prosperous and more peaceful. Ignore all that. Take our new set of promises. Now, I want you to think about this. There are really only two possibilities with these Republican promises. They're either serious or they're kidding. Now, listen to me. If they're serious, they have made you $1 trillion worth of promises. We're going to cut taxes on the wealthy, bring back defense and Star Wars, and balance the budget. What does it cost? $1 trillion. When you ask them, how will you pay for it? They say, we'll tell you after the election. Do you know why? Because the only way to pay for it is to cut everything else in the budget 20% across the board. $2,000 a person in Social Security, cut Medicare 20%, cut the student loans 20%, cut the age of the veteran 20%, cut the Head Start 20%. That is their program. Then they say, well, we didn't say we would cut Social Security. They didn't say they wouldn't. But if you take out Social Security, then our opponents in the Senate and the House have committed to a set of promises that mean 30% cuts across the board and all those things. Of course, there's always the chance that they didn't mean it. They're kidding. If they're kidding, what does it mean? We will give you the goodies without the price. And what does that mean? We're going to explode the deficit. We're going to ship our jobs overseas. We're going to put our economy back in the same mess that this same crowd with these same policies put it in the trickle-down economics years of the 1980s. Tell them no. We want Bob Carr. We want Dale Kildee. We want Jim Barsha. We want Scott Mitchell. Those are the people we want. Tell them no. Tell them no. You know, folks, one of the most amazing things to me is this effort that they are making to take a frustrated electorate and say, it does not matter what we say, it does not matter what we do. Anything the government does is either irrelevant or makes it worse. Can you imagine entering into any other human endeavor with that attitude? Can you imagine going to school with that attitude? Can you imagine building a business with that attitude? Can you imagine going to work with that attitude? Can you imagine building a house with that attitude? Can you imagine building a family with that attitude? No. Well, why would we want to build a Congress with that attitude? You know, folks, I don't know about you, but when I showed up in Washington, I wanted to rebuild the American dream. I wanted to bring this country together. I wanted to make America strong. I don't mean I wanted to talk strong. I wanted to be strong. And to be strong, you need stronger families, better schools, safer streets, more jobs, a safer and more prosperous world. Well, I don't know about you, but I believe it made a difference when we gave 1.5 million Michigan families the protection of the Family and Medical Leave Act so they could take a little time off from work and keep their jobs. And I believe it made a difference when almost 400,000 Michigan families that work full-time with kids in the house and are hovering above the poverty line got an income tax cut under our administration so you could succeed at work and at home, being a parent and a worker. I think it made a difference. I think it made a difference when we made almost 600,000 people in Michigan eligible for lower cost and better repayment college loans so more people could go to college and no one need ever turn away. I think that makes a difference. And I think it made a difference when we lowered the deficit and increased our investment in our future and got this economy going again. And that's why the unemployment rate in America is at a 4-year low, and it's dropped 2% in Michigan in the last 21 months. I think that matters, and I think you think it matters. So, I think it matters that for the first time since the dawn of the nuclear age, there are no Russian missiles pointing at these children here. I think it matters that North Korea has agreed not to become a nuclear power. I think it matters that the United States is expanding trade and opportunity for high-wage jobs. I think it matters that we are making peace and helping peace come about and standing up for freedom from the Persian Gulf to Northern Ireland to Haiti to the Middle East. I think that matters. I think that matters. And so I ask you, my fellow Americans, why would we want to go back? This election is more than anything else an election about the state of mind of our voters. If people are thinking about the issues and what's in their interest and who's on their side and what's best for our future, they will have to vote for Bob Carr over his opponent. Their great hope is that everybody wakes up tomorrow mad, the Democrats stay home, the extremists go vote, the people who want a bunch of easy promises, the people who want tough talk that will lead not to strength but to weakness for most of us, that will prevail. My great belief is that tomorrow, whatever the weather, you're going to wake up with the sun shining in your mind, seeing clearly, thinking about tomorrow. Thinking about tomorrow. Folks, you just think about this. You think about what really counts when you go to work, when you build a business, when you get an education, when you rear a family. It is a positive, building, unifying, compassionate idea of what you are as a person and what you can become. That is what we represent. We still got a lot of problems in this country, folks, but this country's in better shape than it was 21 months ago. We are stronger than we were 21 months ago. We are moving forward. Don't turn back. Go forward. Elect Bob Carr and Dale Kilding and Jim Barsha and Bob Mitchell and Howard Wolpe and Debbie Stabenow. Help these people. Lift Michigan. Go forward. Come on, we can do it. Thank you, and God bless you all.